Namaste. This is Jack Colley's Black Book, episode number 68, titled When God Visits During Halftime. I want to start with a quote by the great prophet and poet Michael Jackson. It's not about races, just places, faces. It's where your blood comes from. It's where your space is. I've seen the bright get duller. I'm not going to spend my life being a color. One of the things I do as a professor of psychology is I try to avoid using a color. I've tried to be a little more specific by using terms like people of African descent or people of European descent. In my mind, it just sounds more respectful than just kind of narrowing everything down to a color. Now, of course, during these episodes that have been dedicated to interpreting the halftime performance of Kendrick Lamar, I have indeed used the term white and black quite frequently. Because as much as I agree with Michael Jackson that there's probably a stronger correlation to where you are born than necessarily the color of your skin, at least in 2025, it is still largely about race. It was near the end of this scene that there was almost this little sub-story done in symbols. It started with this, and then it went to this, which symbolized power and fight, to the individuals moving back and forth. And then we notice that they are dancing in a way that they're almost like marionettes and having their strings pulled. They go into this herky-jerky movement that just seems like they're being controlled. And then the dancers fall forward as if giving up, as if out of energy. But they quickly get back up and they continue to march. And this time they are marching down the stage. Everything breaks into chaos. Most of the dancers go to the right side of the stage, and some of the other dancers, just a few, go to the left side of the stage. And Kendrick Lamar goes to an area right under a street lamp, and we notice somebody sleeping on top of the street lamp. I forget if it's shown right there, but there is somebody sleeping. We start getting into kind of this dreamlike state. Samuel L. Jackson comes in, and he says, "Oh, the culture cheat code, penalty, -1 life." Rap music became a conduit of the Black experience. And my guess is it remains that way today, that the rap genre is a way for an entire culture to communicate their experience. So this is the next setting of the next portion of this narrative. Any symbol can be interpreted through yin-yang. And the interpretation that this might be the Garden of Eden is probably more of a yang interpretation. The implication is we have a walled-in area, and that walled-in area contains something paradise inside, but it's also something numbing and a little bit too ordered. You do notice that in two sections of the garden, things are very in order. You'll notice that the third section of the garden has chaos, and you'll notice that the fourth section is empty. This is going to come up a little bit later because in that empty section, first time that we notice 4 women, and they are going to make an announcement about the divine feminine. But there's another interpretation of this symbol that I think is more in line with the whole narrative. More of a yin interpretation, that inside is chaos. Then these walls become a prison or a jail cell. When I look at this symbol in terms of a prison, I find myself having all sorts of reactions and all sorts of questions. But I think an important first step is for us to acknowledge that there seems to be this difference between how we assign criminality, how we assume and associate different things with different people based on the color of their skin, how we tend to ignore the crimes of the individuals with our skin color while diverting attention to people with different skin color. Taking the latter interpretation that this plus sign is a prison, these walls are a prison, and you are keeping people separated from the people outside. When you look at all of the blue and red individuals that are surrounding this prison, you get really interesting imagery. All of the prisoners are dressed in white. Red and blue can indicate order and chaos. Red and blue can also indicate Republican and Democrat. If you are in the role of the slave, if you are in the role of chaos and being oppressed, it is much easier for you to see your position and your condition in that circumstance. When you are playing the role of oppressor, it is very difficult for you to see your condition and your position because of comfort. Are individuals who have a slavery ancestry, are they more aware of what is really going on than those of us who have been more on the side of the oppressor? As I've done my own work with racism on me personally, it has taken time for me to be able to say, yes, my ancestors were oppressors. On a most pragmatic level is this: when any of us sees somebody who is different than us and we jump to conclusions and we find that things are affecting how we feel, we need to understand that ultimately it is our responsibility to listen to what's going on inside of us and to ask the question, why are we having these feelings? Why are we having this reaction? And then to understand that it's our responsibility to do something about that. Namaste, my friends.